After the 7:30 news on a Tuesday, you know that means it's time with our good friend Barry Blank from National Estate Jewelry Buyers. What's it worth? On our Miller Lite Jersey Central Newsmaker hotline. Barry, good morning.
Good morning.
And I understand that there's cause to celebrate.
I would say there's a lot of cause to celebrate. Do you know what year I opened my store?
Go ahead.
1999. So, which means that in January, we go into our 20th year.
Oh, well, I have Fred and some friends here. Being as you deal in stones, I have the Flintstones. So.
Oh, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. Pour a cheerful toast and fill it, happy anniversary. But be careful you don't spill it, happy anniversary. Oh, happy anniversary.
All right, I could just go over and over with this, but we have, I thought I wanted to do that for you.
Very, very cute.
Yes.
I had a guy that used to call me and my wife the Stones when we did my first wife, when we did the flea market.
Ah.
Because we sold jewelry.
That makes sense.
Things like that. Anyway.
Yeah,
so
20 years. That's tell us about
years.
It's been we're talking a little bit off the air about that. It's been some ride, a very interesting one.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, I was in negotiation for an office building in office suites on Route 18, and I dropped my daughter off 20 years ago at day camp, and I pull up on Route 18, and I look across the road, and I see a little tiny sign that says for rent in the store that I'm now in. So I called, and I made a deal, and we opened the store. I said, what better place? But that was 900 square feet, that little store that I first went into. Next to me was East Brunswick Glass and Mirror.
Okay.
And I said, I could really use more space. Well, before the end of the year was out, they came to me and said, do you want to take over the lease? So I became 1,800 square feet and went from 2 employees to 6 employees.
Okay.
And then in 2010, I went from 1,800 square feet to 4,000 square feet and 16 employees.
Wow.
And and also at the same time, if you remember, between 2010 and 2011, expansion seemed to be the right thing to do because gold went from $300 in 1999 to $1,900 in 2011.
I remember.
In 2011, we did $8 million in business.
Wow.
And I lost more money than I ever lost in my entire life.
Ah.
So deeply in debt, I scratched my head and I said, what am I going to do now? And I just kept going forward and forward. And at the same time, I met my wonderful wife, Nancy.
Okay.
Who repeated over and over and over to me, and it took a couple of years to sink in as I struggled financially. She kept saying, what do you need such a big store with such mind-boggling expenses? And I said, you're right. So in 2014, I renegotiated my contract and half the size of my store back to the 1,800 or 1,900 square feet. And it was through attrition, because I really didn't like letting people go, but sometimes you have to.
Right.
We ended up, and I say we because I always talk about my business as a we. You can't exist without your team players.
True.
And I said to myself, it's time. And I made a decision to go to the landlord and give back half the space. And we ended up with 6 employees with a fraction of the expenses. And now I'm zero owed out, debt-free.
Great.
And it's just such an amazing trip because I got to tell you, there were times at which I was pulling my hair out. I think I went to a bankruptcy lawyer 3 or 4 times in between 2011 and 2014, and he was just amazing. Matter of fact, I still have a very good relationship. Not that I ever had a bad relationship with him, but he's so respectful of me because he knows what I've done.
Wow. Yeah, you have done a lot. So I never realized it was so. What FedEx office? That space used to be yours.
No. FedEx office. Actually, part of FedEx office, if you look at my store, they gave up space.
Ah, okay.
They gave up space and we took it over. And it was a great decision. I love the big store, but the expenses I mean, it was over $10,000 a month. With common area fee, it was probably closer to $12,000 or $14,000 a month.
Right.
And my expenses on a weekly level were over $35,000. And you know how much jewelry you got to buy to pay $35,000? We were not buying enough. We weren't selling enough. And I kept doing what I thought was right, which was borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. I don't borrow anymore because I created my own cash base.
That's the way to do it, obviously. So it's all, buying, selling, appraising, loaning, and now you are, and it changes. It's always happening. You're redesigning, I believe, your showroom, correct?
That's right. Matter of fact, we just did some demo yesterday, and we're going to rebuild it, and we're adding more showcases, more modern lighting, and we're going to really, really look to do retail. And you know, when I say retail, we're still selling at the same rock bottom prices because we don't buy from manufacturers.
Right.
We buy from estates. And because we're buying from estates, it's like buying a previously owned car, but we call it estate jewelry.
Right.
When you're saving 20, 30, 40, 50% or more on the purchase price.
And it's like not like a car where there's mileage on it or something and it goes down. It's a whole different animal.
100%.
Yeah, and that is very cool. And
actually, older jewelry very often better made.
Yeah,
has more substance to it. Has more. It's just beautifully made. I love antique jewelry, but I grew up in the antique jewelry market, in the estate jewelry market. So,
that is great. Now, tell us a little about. You mentioned about your team. Talk a little about your team because they're amazing.
They're amazing. I got to tell you, Susan, who is my, I'll say, office manager is the wrong term.
Yeah.
She's really, I would say, jack of all trades. She came to my store, and she really knew very little about bookkeeping, but she runs the entire store financially. She keeps the everything in check. She keeps making sure the savings has this, and the balance has this, and the credit cards are paid. And then I have 3 buyers. I have Jimmy, Bob, and Eric, who are gemologists. And with so many years' experience, Bob even had his own store. Jimmy had his own store.
Wow.
And Eric worked at TIA.
Cool.
As a diamond grader and colored stone grader. And Sandy, who came to my store, is just phenomenal. And she just tells the client exactly what it is. Then there's Patrick and James, who both work on eBay, and now we're about to open an online store.
So you've got you've got gemologists, numismatists, philatelists, precious metal specialists. I mean, you've got everything.
We got everything. And I forgot to mention Darlene. Darlene is also a head eBay person who's amazing, but she's out on, she had some surgery, so she's out on sick leave right now.
We'll hope she
want her back.
Gets better. You know, when you were talking about your office manager, you know what the test of a great office manager is? Tell me if this is the case. The worst weeks of the year for you is when she's on vacation.
No question about it.
There you go.
No question about it. She tells me every morning what my financial status is.
You know what it sounds like, and I've come to know you, over the years and everything. And there are people who have a business, and it's Monday. You love what you do, don't you?
I totally love what I do. My parents loved what they did. And funny thing is, I told them I'll never go into this business.
Oh, they were in the same business. Your dad was
similar.
Yeah.
My dad was a pharmacist who retired.
Okay.
And he went. They opened an antique store in Long Island. They closed the store and did trade shows, retail and wholesale trade shows from Las Vegas to Florida to Massachusetts, New York, and places in between. Cool. And I had a love it. My grandparents were in the business too, but
That's
made
great.
New jewelry. They made new jewelry. So
that is so cool. And you guys are very, you're client oriented, and that's so important because it's so rare today, unfortunately. But
the difference, clients and customers. A client is somebody under your protection. A customer, you see only one.
Yep. And it's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
You know what that means?
It's free evaluation day.
That
so
is.
Bring in anything you want. Just make sure you tell us, I don't want to sell this because I just want to know, I want to give it to my son, my daughter, whoever. I just want to know what it's worth. And if you want an insurance evaluation or appraisal for it, there would be a fee, but we're happy to do it.
Yeah. I also love and you always talk about this from day one, one unequivocally written in stone, no pun intended, about the buying process.
Sure, the buying process is, we are professionals. We're gemologists. We know about coins and everything else. So we're not going to say to you, how much do you want for this Deco diamond bracelet? We're not going to try to trap you into saying, I want $1,000 because you have no idea of what it's worth, and it's worth $10,000. We're going to say this is what we can offer you for it. So we never say to our clients, and if I ever hear customers, one of my buyers say it, and I don't, I'd be very upset because we don't want you put in a funny place of guessing.
Right, exactly. And you're at 212 Route 18 in East Brunswick, right next to FedEx office. And call Barry, 732-257-GOLD. Barry Blank, thank you. Congratulations. And one more time, let's close on this happy note, if we could. Mr. Music. And Mr. Music. Here we go.
Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Okay, there we go. All right, Barry, thank you so much. And mazel tov, as they say in France.
Mazel and Brooklyn. We'll talk in the next year about the real anniversary of what we're going to do.
You got it. It's going to be fun. All right, thank you so much.